Oh, I hate to do it. I'm listening to the news. I try to be honest with everybody. And I'm listening to the news as I'm preparing for my nightly thing. And they have a clip of Mr. Obama today speaking at the speech. And he's laughing. And he says, and you think you're a good president, you think you're doing well, and you got people within your own White House hiding documents. First of all, any serious person, particularly a former president, you don't joke about that. Because on the previous video, it is questionable. It is questionable. Those who hate Trump don't joke about what the New York Times published. Those who hate Mr. Trump believe that people that are inside, that are subverting a president by hiding national security documents from him, they don't think it's a joke, they think that's their duty to do. Though they're wrong, because you don't do that. If you think you're working for a president and you honestly feel you have to hide national documents from him, you don't do an anonymous thing. I think it was people on the inside that think they're going to get caught. Now, if you think that that's something to laugh about, which I just heard Obama, it's just a news clip, as you catch the news on the radio. And then to know that anybody that studies stuff, some of the things that Mr. Obama did with going after reporters to the degree that no other president and Trump dare not. I mentioned Reality Winner because she was given 5 years. And the caller time for releasing intelligence, okay? Obama actually charged reporters with those espionage crimes and leakers to the degree that all previous presidents did not do. Obama's administration, Eric Holder, illegally tapped into the computers of civilian reporters, Cheryl Atkinson. They did a lot of things that rise to the level that he should have been accountable, and Eric Holder. But yet Eric Holder also, because I see their tweets and I've tweeted responses to John Brennan and all, Eric Holder actually believes that the things he did that were wrong and illegal, he had a bravado, sort of like the race thing. He played that. I think Obama has made a huge mistake today. And I read the majority. I think he's shown himself to have been irresponsible. Because you have the media, and you have people that are within the holes of government. You want openness and honesty. And if you were held to account, if Mr. Obama was held to account, and the things that Hillary Clinton did, whether it's Benghazi, whether it's uranium deals with Russia that were approved and making money, while Secretary of State cutting deals with foreign governments, and right after those deals were cut by the State Department, which she had up, money flowed in. That was illegal. That was illegal. But the thing that bugs me is Mr. Obama's joking about the New York Times, and today joking about when he made that Nazi comment. There were people that Trump did not articulate correctly when he said there are good people on both sides of the issue. If you today asked Mr. Schumer, Mr. Obama, and Mr. Obama and others have actually had relationships with men like Mr. Farrakhan, who openly advocated the annihilation of the white man. And you say, but Mr. Obama wouldn't hold those types of views. Actually, the people that still advocate for the open discrimination of white young girls, I gave that example because a white young, you say, John, we're not familiar with this. Is this something that Mr. Obama and the Caller Times and what we refer to as mainstream media, liberals or Democrats, do they actually advocate for the discrimination of white people only? Yes, they do. You say, maybe I'll do a quick thing here. Affirmative action basically was considered legal. And what affirmative action said was, because of the history of our country, which was indeed wrong, the history of slavery, race, and the Civil War, because of that, in order sort of to right the wrongs, and I've listened to Eric Rudolph Dyson and Cornel West, who I like, who were critics of Obama, by the way. So what people pushed for was, if you have colleges and minorities are not getting in the numbers that we desire because of past history and all, if a college decides it's in their best interest to have diversity, then you're permitted to say to a white young girl at the age of 18 who grew up in poverty and rose to the head of her class and top scores, and she could be the top qualified to be admitted into a university in this country. And you could have a 35-year-old black man, remember this, apply, maybe with a prison record, a drug pass. You can have a 30-something-year-old black man apply. Now, say, John, why put it that way? Because you should always look at qualifications. And that college could actually say, we do not want the white young 18-year-old girl with a high scholarly we want the 35-year-old black man with the drug problem. Because we deem that diversity is for the overall good of our university. You mean, so could they do that to a black person? No. Could a university say to a black person or to a Hispanic person, we're going to factor in your race? Meaning, we have a lot of black people already, maybe at our university, or a lot of Hispanics, so we want a white to come in. So we're going to turn it around. And, no, you can't do that. That's considered racism. So the only targeted official racism is towards a white person. Now, it's wrong. And people are not idiots in this country. And because of that, because of the examples I gave you earlier, that you can have, there were kids, young kids, who challenged the system, which all people should do. And they started trying to open up campuses, groups on campus. The white student group, meaning if you have a black student group, they called them Nazis and racists. Okay, you should have honestly explained what I explained. You should have just said what I said. And if you asked Mr. Obama today, or Cory Booker, or even the Schumers, and you said, can't you see that the example that John just spoke, can't you see that that's racist to say to that? And they will tell you to your face, strike that white girl because of her race, because that's what we believe in affirmative action. That's not a principle they hold out of a moral authority. That's something they do for political expediency. Some of my many YouTube sites and all these sites, they could deem this video hate speech because I just told you the truth. So what benefit does telling us the truth have? When you face that, then you take away the fuel that fuels racism. Don't you understand? If my little white daughter of 18 came home and said, Dad, I had the high scores, you worked hard at the fire department, but I got turned down because the courts have ruled they're allowed to say, I don't want the white girl. That plays a factor. And if I told my daughter, yes, that's true, and the Democrats and Mr. Obama agree with that. And my daughter would say, but can they do that, Dad, to a black student? Meaning, no, that's racism. Can they do that to Hispanic? No, honey, that's racism. And how long and how many years would I have to explain that confusion to a young white kid? And try to get them to understand something that's not understandable. I give that only because they're not honest in this discourse. I think Mr. Obama's joking that I just heard. You say you're a good president, Mr. Trump, and you got people running. You should be concerned with national security. You know, I didn't repost the video that said my Muslim faith as I repost. That was not a critical video. It was simply a video that said, Mr. Obama was a good man, and he's ruining his legacy completely. And then at times in his upbringing, some of the books he wrote, Mr. Obama appreciated the Muslim influence that he did indeed have growing up, schooling in Indonesia. He was not, he felt it helped him to have a discernment between terrorism and honest Muslim people. I had the course, trust me. It was from the man that taught under the Obama administration Islam. Okay? The man that Mr. Obama had, who was a previous Christian, converted to Islam. I don't see it right now. The history of oh, here it is. You see? Okay. This was the man, Great World Religions, Islam, Professor John L. Esposito. And Mr. Obama had this man teach sort of like the religions in the sense of a course on the different, it wasn't a religious course. He was trying to help him, you know, being nice, I guess. And I taught from it only because I tried to share aspects that were historical, like I do history teaching. Now, Mr. Obama's upbringing and past also caused him to have a view that he felt would help, I think, as he became president. And when he said publicly to George Stephanopoulos on a YouTube video, he said, my Muslim faith. A big news reporter, George Stephanopoulos, still a newsman, corrected him and said, you mean your Christian faith? And Obama just, then he said, yeah, my Christian faith. Okay, now, I think because of the history in the past and the church that Mr. Obama attended, without being critical of all that, he kind of had a view that you embrace your past. And he spoke highly of his past and of his father and that experience he had. Okay. But then in campaign world, there was a campaign, a presidential campaign. And somebody within the Hillary Clinton campaign decided to kind of throw out things about Mr. Obama. Was he born in the U.S.? Things like that. The Muslim thing. That actually was traced back to the Hillary Clinton campaign. The media lies to you today on Google. Because if you Google it, it'll say, like, fact check, that's a lie. And then you read the article, it says, yes, it was people in her campaign, but we couldn't trace the exact text to Hillary. That's manipulation. When they do it at the cost of people, children, whether they be white or Hispanic, then you have hypocrites, is what you are. And so, during that whole thing, I didn't speak negatively of Mr. Obama, but I said it's quite obvious that he had that as part of his history, part of his upbringing. And as a Christian, and there are some in the real liberal intellectual view that think they can embrace various world religions at once. I don't advocate for that, but I teach the different religions. That's why I had the course from the man that taught it for the Obama administration. But then the media went on questioning, how dare anybody ever think that Mr. Obama's a Muslim? Well, a lot of conscientious people thought, yes, that was part of his background. I even had a homeless friend, quite educated. But then they attacked anybody that even dared broach that subject. I just find it at the height of hypocrisy that many in this environment, knowing that we do practice open racism, that's legalized racism. There's still other types of racism that exist in our society. But I gave you the only one that's legalized. That was permitted. The courts ruled that affirmative action was good and just and legal because the universities put the better good of the diversity above the individual race of a student. Well, you can never do that to black, Hispanic, or anybody else. And there are Hispanics and blacks and Democrats and Obamas and others who will tell you, how dare your white child challenge that? I mean, they will, like the protesters about the abortion this week. And no matter how hard you try to explain truth to them, say this is not an Aryan Brotherhood racist, any of that. This is simply truth. They will not only not accept it, they will mock you. I just thought it was so irresponsible for Obama to make a statement today when you have real world events going on, the Syria thing, and to be laughing today and saying, you think like you've got a good presidency and you got people hiding stuff from you. He's done a disservice. We would ask him, please, go away. Just go away.